So, and as we get into this, you have a new book coming out in September, I believe, um, on Bach and his six unaccompanied cello suites. And I think that's fascinating. That I mean, 100 years ago, those are just kind of oddball little pieces that nobody paid much attention to, and they've gained a lot of traction in the last few decades. So, so what have you found about them? What prompted Bach to write six full on suites for unaccompanied cello?
That is a surprisingly difficult question to answer, and that's partly why there's so much mystery around these pieces, even a few centuries after they were composed. It was very common in Bach's lifetime to compose pieces in sets of six. So, for the keyboard suites, there will be six English suites, six French suites. For solo violin, he wrote a set of six pieces, which is three sonatas and three partitas.
Mhm.
So that was sort of a standard way of composing. And for Bach, often the idea was over the course of six pieces, I'll try to show you everything that's possible in this genre and for this instrument. So all the different kinds of ways you can interpret what a suite for keyboard or for violin might be. It's sort of like with the well-tempered clavier, he wants to show every key you can compose in, every type of prelude, every type of fugue. So that's one way Bach thinks about. But quite a lot of music Bach composed, either it was for instruments he specialized in, which were organ, keyboard, and violin,
Mhm.
or a piece he might have written for some particular other musician or some particular occasion, or that it was part of his job to write them, like to write the cantatas every week. Why cello suites? That's a difficult question to answer. Around the time he wrote them, he was working in the city of Köthen in Germany.
Mhm.
There, this was the one time in his life that his job was not to write church music. So he was basically a court composer for the prince there. The prince was a great fan of music. He played the viola da gamba among other instruments. So why might Bach not have written suites for unaccompanied viola da gamba, you might wonder?
Right.
Because there's a whole tradition of writing unaccompanied gamba music. There was a tradition of writing unaccompanied violin music, but for one reason or another, he opted to write these six pieces for cello, and we don't know who might have been among the first people to play them. A lot of his students were curious about these pieces, made manuscript copies of them as a way of kind of studying them. Some of them who copied them, they didn't play the cello themselves, so they studied them as compositions or to play at the keyboard. But why did he write them? It is a difficult question to answer. Maybe at this point in Bach's career, he was branching out from keyboard music. So he was developing his violin playing. That's why he wrote the unaccompanied violin pieces. And maybe he thought cello was the appropriate companion instrument. It's the best speculation we could have.